Dillinger was put in the custody of Sheriff Lillian Holly. She boasted that she could keep him, and he boasted she couldn't. This didn't prevent the amazing happy family picture in which Prosecutor Estill, who said he was confident that Dillinger would get the chair, and the sheriff posed with Dillinger in apparently affectionate intimacy. Vigilance had been relaxed. Guards no longer paraded Main Street, on which the jail faced. Business as usual went on outside, and inside the sheriff busied herself making pies. But behind the brick walls, Dillenger was whittling at a piece of wooden washboard and making plans. On March 3rd at 8:30 in the morning, armed with his wooden toy pistol, and walked out. Through this kitchen and out the side entrance, unmolested and unhurried, the trio went. At the high backyard gates, Youngblood clambered over to survey the street beyond, while the more leisurely Mr. Dillenger and his companion strolled through the police garage, which seems to have been unlocked and unguarded. Reunited outside, Dillenger and his two companions marched down this pleasant street, where respectable people were having their breakfast, turned to the left into this alley, and made for the side door of the Main Street garage, the front entrance of which is next to the criminal court building, which in turn is next to the jail he had just left. In short, he went around the block, forced a garage man to join his party, and escaped in the sheriff's speedy car. Four gentlemen together, two representing law and order, and two representing the world of crime. Within a few minutes, Crown Point had become the laughingstock of the world, and John Dillinger the most wanted man in America.
This is just going to be... Hey, everybody. Welcome to B. Kelly Photography and Road Trips. This is the first time I've done a podcast on here, and the reason is I am going to do a photo project about our local hometown I call hero, Mr. John Dillinger, and I'm going to do a photo project to follow all of this. I got my buddy Tommy here, co-worker, good friend of mine, digs deep into Dillinger stuff, Bonnie and Clyde and all that stuff, so got him on here so we can go ahead and talk about the history, crimes, and all that about Dillinger, and the conspiracy theories that will follow. So,
and there's many of them. Buckle up.
So let's just dig in, man. So, all right. As we all know, John Dillinger is from here in Mooresville, Indiana. I'm friends with John's closest relatives, and as a matter of fact, John's nephew actually painted one of my cars in this building back this way, back in the day. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah, how cool is that? John Dillinger's nephew painted your car.
Yeah, uh-huh.
Now, I had a chance to meet the man. He's a very solid guy.
Really, really great guy. Great guy.
Real friendly. There's obviously things he wouldn't discuss for reasons that are obvious, but yeah, Mooresville's local bad boy. His farm is, I don't know, 8 miles from here or less. Not far.
If I had to guess, I'd say between 6 to 8 miles, if I had to guess at it.
I can assume we can expect to see that with the photo project.
But that wasn't the only farm John's dad owned in Mooresville.
No, there was a second one.
Yeah, there was 2 farms.
Yeah, and before, and I believe Johnny was 12, maybe, when they first came to Mooresville. He was born on Cooper Street in Indianapolis.
I was going to ask that question.
I've been able to see one of his boyhood houses up there, but the house he was born in is I-70 currently runs right through where it was.
Okay.
But there is a lot of local history because, a lot of the banks he robbed were here. A couple in, one in Iowa, obviously a bunch in Chicago. And here in Logansport, Peru, Greencastle. Greencastle is a really, I can touch on that one a little later regarding the movie that was made about him. There's some really cool stuff there too.
So let's talk about the movie. What'd you think about the movie? Like compared to facts, compared to like say like when somebody does something in Hollywood.
Well, it was very obviously chunks of it were fictionalized. And I thought the movie was neat. I thought it told a great story, and they did touch on the basic facts. I mean, the two things that really stood out to me was they depicted the death of Pretty Boy Floyd in the movie before Dillinger died in the movie.
Right.
Pretty Boy Floyd was actually killed later in 34, and if we are to believe what we're told, Mr. Dillinger was killed in July of 34, shortly after his 31st birthday. Now, the other thing that stood out to me is Charles Winstead is credited with having shot Johnny. In reality, it was an East Chicago police officer named Martin Zarkovich, and there's other information about him I have. But in the movie, Charles Winstead is credited with shooting him, and he got down real close to his face, and Johnny spoke to him, "Bye bye Blackbird," as a message to Billy Frechette.
Oh, okay.
Which Charles Winstead did deliver. In reality, the man who got shot in that alley never had any last words. We don't know what Johnny's last words are.
Right, correct.
We don't know what. So I already got to dive into a small one here. There was a man in Chicagoland named Jimmy Lawrence, and he was.
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
He was a dead doppelganger ringer for John Dillinger. He's actually been arrested in 1933 on 2 occasions
For looking like Johnny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mistaken identity. People trying to claim that little bit of reward they had, but you never had that big of a reward until the FBI got involved.
Right.
Which the birth of the FBI occurred right after Johnny's death. They were the Bureau of Investigation. And that all got started with the Kansas City Massacre in 1933 when Pretty Boy Floyd and company, Adam Ricchetti, and those guys tried to free Jelly Nash from prison on prison transport. That's what declared the war on crime in 1933. And
okay.
Right. That's where Hoover got involved in trying to catch all these guys. There were 6 factions, actually, I think. There was Pretty Boy Floyd, the Barker Carpus gang, John Dillinger gang, Bonnie and Clyde, and Machine Gun Kelly.
Correct.
And that's what started the whole thing, and the FBI getting involved.
Okay.
Now, this Jimmy Lawrence character, one of the theories is he was paid by John Dillinger to attend the movie with Anna Sage and Polly Hamilton, the women he was kind of staying with toward the end of his life.
Right.
Johnny didn't know they were going to ambush him, or he never would have sent that man into that position.
There's
no way in hell. Johnny was not as bad as everybody makes him out to be. He was a chivalrous man. He did what he had to do in the Depression. He never hurt nobody.
No.
He's they were, he had hostages riding on the car.
Right.
And he made I can't remember if it was Pierpont or Van Meter, but he made him quit swearing. There's women in the car.
Yeah.
And one of the guys was cold, man. Charlie Makeley gave him his hat so he could stay warm. I mean, they weren't all that bad.
No.
And when they dropped the hostages off, they gave them money to make sure they get home safe.
That's the one thing I'll say about Mooresville. Like, I have never heard one bad thing about Johnny. It was always like he was just a hometown hero. Like he was like a modern day, at that time, like modern day Robin Hood.
Right.
Like he never really.
There's a really awesome story about there was a gentleman in a bank. He was in the process of robbing, cashing his check.
Mm-hmm.
And Johnny told him, "Go ahead and take it. We don't want your money. We want the bank's money.
Mm-hmm.
We're not after the little guy. You need your money."
Right.
So to speak, or paraphrase.
Right.
He was never known to be bad. He was just acrobatic. Yeah, he had a big old Tommy gun. He was fearsome. Okay, I understand. But
that time, a lot of people did.
Right. He's like, "I don't want to hurt nobody." He wasn't like Bonnie and Clyde. Bonnie and Clyde were
ruthless.
And they got way more posthumous fame than they deserved because in 1967 they made that movie.
Yes.
And that pissed off a lot of people, including Bonnie and Clyde's family, but more notably the family of Frank Hamer. Which I have my own theories on that. They could have took him alive. They chose violence, but that's a whole other podcast for a whole other time, and we need Bud's usual partner here for that one. She's Bonnie and Clyde expert.
Yeah, my Brookie. Yeah, Brookie is my Bonnie and Clyde girl.
Right.
Yeah.
So I have something cool to show her someday if I can catch her before my Indiana tenure. But yeah, I mean.
Oh, and by the way, everybody, when I mentioned Brookie, I have another podcast called Paranormal Vantage Point with Bud and Brooke. This video is basically just going to be on my photography channel. But if you do want to check out the podcast, if you're into the paranormal stuff and all that, feel free to check it out. I will leave the link down below.
Put it right down there for you.
Yeah, right down below.
I'm not a paranormal buff, but I do enjoy the guests that Buttonbrook have. I enjoy the conversations thoroughly. I can't recommend it enough. We'll leave a link down here for you so you can check that out.
Yeah.
Please do, and stay tuned for the photos that are coming with this.
So let's start. Okay, so now let's go backwards a little bit. So let's
We
talk
need
about
to.
on how Johnny, what got Johnny into crime? Like, what made him do what he did, or kind of what put the bad taste in his
Well, Johnny was a quote unquote bad boy. He was raised very strict by John Wilson Dillinger, his father. Um, he was a hard ass. I mean,
mouth?
he was a very tough parent, and Johnny had a rebellious streak. So when he was a child living in Indianapolis, Mr. Dillinger, his father owned a grocery store, and Johnny got his kicks stealing coal from coal trains and and,
Uh huh.
and selling it. And there was a few girls involved in that. And I can't remember the name of his childhood friend that was involved. Brewer. His name was Brewer. That's it. Uh, Fred Brewer Whiteside.
I
Exactly.
never knew his name
Yep, that's his name. That was his little running buddy when they were
when they
kids.
were kids. Yeah.
And he seen the railroad detectives coming and whistled, and him and Johnny disappeared. The girls got caught, and Mr. Dillinger bought his first farm in Mooresville. The second one is the one we all know. That's the one where the house is right up on Old 267.
Correct.
That's the
Yes.
second farm. But he moved him out here to Mooresville because back in 1934, the country everywhere. Right now, this day and age, you can't tell where Mooresville ends, Canby begins, Indianapolis begins. You can't tell none of that. It's so popped up. This is also, you got to remember, 90 years later.
Yeah.
And so he moved. John Dillinger Sr. moved the family to Mooresville, thinking that farm life, country life might settle this kid down.
Yes, correct.
Not true. Now Johnny,
Nowhere close to true.
right? Now Johnny had a motorcycle and got himself a job on Kentucky Avenue, doing what we do, oddly enough, in a machine shop, making things. And he was bored.
I would still like to know what machine shop that was.
I know. I'd love to find it.
That would be a.
That would be a hell of a find, wouldn't it?
I'm gonna have to ask Dad about that because I mean there wasn't back in the day like even like my grandpa because my grandpa was a machinist too.
Right.
But back in that day there wasn't a lot of machine shops around like mom and pop machine shops.
Dang, I spilled stout on my shirt. Sorry, Johnny. He's on my shirt. Anyway, so while he was working at this Kentucky machine shop, he was also playing baseball for a team called the Mooresville Walkovers back in the early mid-20s.
Correct.
In 1924, one of his teammates, or was it one of the umpires? I'd have to double check that fact, but somebody involved with his baseball. He played shortstop. He was a beast of a baseball player. More on that later, too. Now,
That's how he got the nickname Jack Rabbit Johnny.
yes, because he was a beast shortstopper.
Yeah.
Well, him and his teammate or umpire, I can't remember exactly, his name was Ed Singleton.
Yes.
They took it in their head to rob a Mooresville grocer. His name was Morgan.
Mr. Morgan.
He was a family friend of the Dillingers. And they tried to rob him. Johnny had a machine bolt wrapped in flannel and I want to say a 22 or 32 caliber pistol. Well, Mr. Morgan didn't take this laying down.
He was kind of a big guy too, though.
Yeah. And Ed Singleton was in the car, the getaway car. But Johnny went to hit this guy. He hit him in the head. His straw hat saved him from massive injury. They struggled. In the struggle, the gun went off. Nobody was injured by the gun. Ed Singleton heard that, took off, left Johnny.
Yes.
So this is why we kind of refer to him as a local hero and all of his love he had in Mooresville. I'll tell you exactly how much love the town of Mooresville had for this man. Now, they convinced him to own up to it. He confessed everything to his father. His father got him to turn himself in, and he was convinced to confess without a lawyer, so to speak. And right. Ed Singleton was considerably older, and Johnny got a 10-year sentence.
And also the building Mr. Morgan's grocery store, the building is still there.
Is that the one that's close to Zydeco's?
No,
That was the theater.
that was a theater. Mr. Morgan's grocery store. Okay, when you're going up Indiana, then you got the road right here,
I believe
where
Jimmy,
McDonald's is.
they caught him on High Street, I think.
Yeah. So you go by McDonald's, take that road there,
Okay.
and
I
then
know
you
where
take
it's
it
at.
down right before you hit that stoplight.
Right.
It's a plumbing store now,
Right,
like
right,
a
right.
plumbing, and that is Mr. Morgan's original building.
Yeah,
So
it
that
is still
building,
standing.
so
You can go drive
history,
by that today if you're ever in Mooresville.
and like even where the pool halls sit, that's an empty parking lot. But yeah, we'll get into that here in a little bit. But yeah, keep going to where.
That's that's what made Johnny very bitter. Okay, so Ed Singleton got a sentence of 2 years to 14 years. Johnny got 10 to 20.
Got 10 to 20. Mm-hmm.
Ed Singleton, significantly older, played a smaller part and everything, sure. But robbery is robbery. I mean, if you're an accessory to robbery,
You both did the crime,
right.
you know.
So Johnny went to Pendleton Reformatory, and Ed Singleton did 2 years and got out. Johnny did 9 of his 10 years.
Yes.
And he did a bunch of it there at Pendleton. And he was playing baseball for Martinsville Athletics at that time. He played for the Mooresville Walkovers, Martinsville Athletics.
Right.
And so he got that sentence, and he was so bitter that his partner in crime got off so light. And so it lit a fire in him. And he actually is a paraphrased close to John Dillinger quote is, "They think I was bad before.
Right.
I'll show them what bad is," so to speak, or something along them lines. Now, he met some people in prison. There was a very famous bank robber back in the teens and 20s named Henry Lom. Or not Henry, his name was Herman Lom.
Herman, yes, correct.
He's the one who developed the jug markers, jug being a bank, the get roads, the getaway roads, and they mapped everything out to within a tenth of a mile. And he had a system for robbing banks.
But wasn't it like a
robbing a bank is easy. The getaway is the challenge.
But wasn't it like he come up like when he was in prison, like he come up with this thing that had to do with like war strategies?
Yeah, that's Lom. Yeah, he was a military trained.
Yes.
And he applied those strategies to bank robbing. There was a protege of his in prison that Johnny met named Wallace. And through Wallace, he met Harry Pierpont, Charlie Makeley. Makeley might have came later. I have so much Dillinger knowledge. I will probably mix some things up. The important stuff, we have a thing called Google. We can fix it. But anyway, I know for a fact.
Feel free to fact check us.
Right. You may find that I've mixed up names and dates, but what I'm saying is true. He definitely met Pierpont, Harry Pierpont in Pendleton. And, Pierpont was in there for some more serious bank robbery. And he met a couple of other gentlemen, and they got transferred to Michigan City, the Indiana State Prison in Michigan City, which is way the hell up by Chicago. And
it's still there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's a death row and everything. Befriended these people and got himself an education.
Mm-hmm.
And at the Pendleton Reformatory, Homer Van Meter, not Charlie Makeley. They met Makeley in Michigan City.
That's right.
So there you go. My mix-up is fixed. He met Harry Pierpont and had Homer Van Meter.
Yes.
In Pendleton. And they were friends with Wallace and people who knew Henry Lobb and learned all this bank robbery stuff and learned how to do it. Well, those two, they all worked in a shirt shop, and Johnny had an amazing manual dexterity due to being a machinist.
Mm-hmm.
And he was able to make his daily quota, and he would also often make double quota and help out people because Van Meter gooped off too much. Spent time on the mat a lot.
I read that.
The mat.
Yeah.
And well, anyway, they got transferred to Michigan City, and Johnny, he said, "I'd like to go to Michigan City." And everybody thought Johnny was freaking batshit insane. Everybody thought Johnny was insane for requesting to go from a reformatory to state prison. And Johnny was like, "Well, they have a heck of a baseball team. I could go up there and play baseball. We could between me and these other guys, we could teach the state of Indiana what baseball is all about. So he transferred to Michigan City.
But that's the one thing about a lot of people did not know about Johnny is like how good. And they said if he didn't do what he did,
he could have been a pro.
He could have been a pro baseball player without a shadow of a doubt.
Right, because
his favorite team at the time was the Chicago Cubs.
Yes.
Which I'm a diehard Reds fan, so I will forgive him for that.
Well, later on in his life, when he was wanted, public enemy number one, he was able to live a quiet life for a little bit in Chicago and would go attend Cubs games all the time.
Yeah.
Him and miscellaneous women. There was Mary Longacre and the most famous one and well-known one is Evelyn Frechette, also known as Billy.
Right.
And then the last one was Polly Hamilton staying with Anna Sage. That comes later.
Right. That's where it gets interesting.
Right. So anyway, at the baseballing, he went up there, he met and learned more about bank robbery. And what I was saying earlier about the love he had for Mooresville, even the man he robbed, Mr. Morgan, and the town of Mooresville and his father started a petition to get him paroled.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's true.
Even the man he robbed. That's how much love Johnny was. How much he was loved in Mooresville.
Okay, let's go backwards just a little.
Absolutely.
How Johnny got caught. Okay, when I just mentioned the empty parking lot where the pool hall sit in Mooresville.
Oh, yeah.
How Johnny got caught because of his empathy.
He went into this pool hall because the shot was heard and all this and that. Well, maybe it wasn't because they had no freaking idea what he was talking about for a second. He was like, you heard about Mr. Morgan. What happened to Mr. Morgan? Is he okay? He was concerned that he might have hurt this man in his robbery.
Yes.
That's why the man was, one, his straw hat saved him. Two, Johnny didn't put his back into it. He didn't want to hurt nobody.
Like he didn't want to. He just wanted the money.
Right. That's it. That's all he ever wanted.
Right. And a lot of people, let me clear up a rumor. A lot of people get, and this is a rumor that I even heard from the family as well. A lot of people used to think, okay, when he went to rob Mr. Morgan, everybody thought he'd robbed the grocery store, which is not true. He tried to rob Mr. Morgan coming out.
On his way to the bank, I believe.
But a lot of people thinks that it was John's dad that he robbed. That was a rumor a long time ago, and that's not true.
Honestly, that's the first time I've heard that people thought.
No, that was a rumor.
Really?
That was a rumor a long time ago that people thought that John's dad, which is John Dillinger as well.
Dillinger.
That he was the one that he robbed, and it's not true. It was Mr. Morgan's grocery store in Mooresville. It was not John's dad.
Right. Once they moved to Mooresville, John Dillinger Sr. was not a grocer no more.
He was a farmer.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's the one rumor. That was a rumor around Mooresville. Not really. I don't want to use the word rumor loosely. But it was just a lot of people got an urban
hearsay.
But a lot of people got those stories mixed up a lot. And so I'm the type of person, and Tommy knows as well, as a skeptic of the paranormal, I will fact check something, I will research, even if I don't have the exact answers. Right. I will still do my best to find an actual fact.
Right, or even a plausible explanation.
Yes. But a lot of people did get that mixed up, thinking, well,
right.
John's dad was the first guy ever robbed him. No, that's not true.
Not true at all.
No.
I've never heard that, but that's absolutely not true.
No.
He never, and then later on in his life, his dad, it's still had love for him.
Exactly.
Like, when Johnny got out of Crown Point, his dad that's coming up too. Oh, yeah. His dad was like, yeah, I knew he would. He's pretty dang cunning. That's my boy. He was proud of him. Even though he was brought up so strict, he bloodied Johnny's face for handing out extra candy to the little girls at the grocery store when he was a child. Just backhanded the heck out of him. That's stealing, boy. Stop it. He was a hard ass father when he was a kid, but the older he got, the exploits that he pulled off.
Yes, correct.
Of which there are so many. the crown point when being the crown jewel of them.
Right.
And I'll badmouth the early FBI later too, because
Now, so when Johnny gets ready to get parole,
so cut to 9 years later,
his mom was getting ready to pass away.
Right. This was his. So Johnny's mother died when he was 3.
Johnny's biological mom.
Yes.
Yeah, correct.
And his sister Audrey was 13 years older than him. She was born in 1890. Took care of him, and then down here in Mooresville, John Dillinger Sr. met Lizzie.
Yes.
And married her, and that became John's stepmom. And Johnny grew to love her. It took him a minute, and stepmom.
But he still considered.
And when he developed that love for her, that was his mother at that point. It was just the way it was. And when going back to what you were starting to say, when he was fixing to get parole, Johnny's father wrote a letter saying, "Can we speed this up? Mother not expected to live."
Yes.
And when he got paroled, he made it to Mooresville, and when he pulled into the driveway, here come the coroner. He was too
late, and he didn't get a chance to say goodbye, and that put a huge
and that was all
bad taste in his mouth for that.
That contributed to the fact that he got screwed over.
And Mike's mom, because Lizzie is Mike's mom, Francis' mom.
Right.
Yes, correct.
And
she was a sweet woman.
That contributed to it, absolutely. Yeah. Between that, getting screwed over, Ed Singleton practically got away with it. And part of the screwing over was when they convinced him to go ahead with no lawyer, he was promised leniency.
Yes, he was.
And that didn't happen. He did 9 of his 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And he told his father, he's like, they set loose one bad son of a gun, and I'm going to show him what's up.
Right.
And he wasn't out of prison 2 weeks. He's robbing a bank.
Uh-huh.
And now he was organizing Prison Break 2 to get Charlie Makeley, Harry Pierpont, and Homer Van Meter out of Michigan City. He needed funds to do that. Smuggle guns.
Wasn't that pretty much the first scene of the movie Public Enemy with John?
Yes.
Where it showed Johnny.
That's the other bad thing with the movie. It don't show everything.
It kind of.
And it's kind of out of chronological order.
It kind of does this.
Yes. It did. Most notably the killing of Pretty Boy Floyd, which happened later.
He died in Ohio, right?
Yeah, he died not far from Youngstown, I believe.
Okay.
He was out there, Liverpool, Ohio.
That's it. Yeah.
Town. He was out there with Adam Ricchetti and their girls, and the car wasn't running right, so he sent the girls to the mechanic. Some farmer, they come down and tried to get him. Adam Ricchetti murdered one of them. They got away. And Floyd wound up at somebody's house.
Okay.
Found him there. She fed him and everything. The cops found him there. He's hiding behind a corn crib. Took off in the field. They shot at him. And they walked up and said, "Are you Pretty Boy Floyd?" And he hated that nickname. He refused to acknowledge it. He says, "My name is Charles Arthur Floyd." And I ain't
Charles Arthur Floyd, yes.
And I ain't telling you nothing.
Right.
Were you responsible for the Kansas Depot job? And he answered with obscenities.
Yes.
And then he says, "I'm going away now," and died. His last words was, "I'm going now."
How did Johnny kind of get mixed up with Pretty Boy Floyd?
They really weren't. They just were cohorts.
They weren't really.
Things were happening during all this stuff going on with Johnny, Bonnie, and Clyde. Were out doing their thing.
Yes.
Machine Gun Kelly was out doing his thing.
I tried to do
Babyface Nelson, Lester Gillis was out doing his thing. And later on, that there's a second incarnation of the gang. We're not even to the first yet, but there was a second incarnation involving Babyface.
Right.
And all this was going on at the same time. Johnny and Pretty Boy never really mixed up. Just Pretty Boy Floyd affected Johnny because when he did the Kansas City Massacre with Adam Ricchetti, that spurred the FBI getting involved in all this.
Right.
But you got to remember, back in them days, you could rob a bank, and if you're across the state line, you're safe. They had no jurisdiction anywhere.
That's the only one. That is 100% correct.
The only ones that could even chase him was the Bureau of Investigation, but they didn't even have arrest powers. They were able to find him, corner him, and call the local police.
Correct.
Yeah, until later on in life.
That is true.
Now,
You still doing your podcast?
Yeah, well, Let me pause it.
Can we walk to?
Yeah, go ahead. I'll edit. I can edit it out.
No worries.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to bring it down here.
No, go ahead. Hang on. Okay, we had to make a quick pause. Okay, so we were talking about Dillinger.
Being affected by Pretty Boy Floyd.
Yes, correct.
Okay, so a slight recap. Pretty Boy Floyd did the Kansas City massacre, thus lighting the fire under the FBI's rear end and all that, and that's pretty much the only way. They never really acted together.
Okay.
So,
because there's rumors out there that people said they did. They were kind of in the same gang, but they never.
Some of that was fueled by the movie, because why would that's something I didn't understand about movie. The movie is, why would they even depict Pretty Boy Floyd's death?
Now, he was played by Channing Tatum, right?
Yes, he was. That's a handsome son of a gun.
Yeah, he was portrayed by Channing Tatum.
That's because
so all you ladies out there that love Channing Tatum,
he's a pretty boy, and that's why
he's Pretty Boy Floyd in the movie Public Enemy with Johnny Depp.
What's crazy is Dillenger, I don't think, ever had anything to do with Alvin Karpis, but Alvin Karpis, played by Giovanni Ribisi, is in that movie.
Played by Giovanni. Then Christian Bale played Melvin Purvis.
Yes, who is a moron. Not Christian Bale. Melvin Purvis was
a moron.
Slower than Corky from Life Goes On. He's a moron.
Yeah, we try not to be too politically correct.
I know.
It's okay.
I just, when it comes to Purvis, it's just like, how can that level of stupid exist in somebody that intelligent? Because he wasn't really stupid. He had intelligence. You can't be a lawyer and be part of the BOI, which is the pre-FBI, unless you have a certain level of intelligence. But
right.
When we get to Little Bohemia, you'll see what I mean. This dude, I cannot believe. Anyway. So, yeah, Floyd was never involved directly with Dillinger's exploits. Babyface Nelson was later, and there was a point in time where Dillinger, he didn't really do any crimes with them, but he was hanging out with the Barker gang.
Ma Barker.
Without Ma. It was only, let's see, it was
without Ma Barker?
It was without Ma Barker. The only ones that were there was Doc Barker, Volney Davis, two lesser members of that gang, and Volney Davis's girlfriend, Evelyn, somebody or another, I can't remember her last name, but she had done robberies and broke out of prison, so her nickname was Rabbits.
Oh, okay.
And that comes later when the Spiral Bridge shooting occurs. But yeah, there's, I'm saying, that the legend, the stories, the myths, and everything about John Dillinger, there's so much of it. And the funny, it all happened. And all these other gangs were doing stuff too, the Bonnie and Clyde, all at the same time, all within a span, 1933 to 1935.
Yes.
Now, Johnny was killed in 1934.
34.
Pretty Boy Floyd was killed in 34. Bonnie and Clyde were killed in 34. Most of these people were killed in 34 or went to prison in 34.
Yes.
So everything took place in that time frame. And then after all that was said and done, that's when the BOI became the FBI. And Hoover ran it till he died.
That's true.
And Melvin Purvis.
And Hoover's the one that gave Dillinger the name Public Enemy #1.
Yes, because that's what they did. They've been doing that. They still do that. That started with Johnny.
Yes.
He was America's first Public Enemy #1. Public Enemy #1. They have some local flavor. We have the town of Mooresville has a brewery called the Black Dog Brewing Company.
And I am a huge supporter of Black Dog.
You can see this.
Yeah.
But they made one specifically about John Dillinger called Public Enemy #1. It's a brown ale. It's very tasty.
We're drinking the
coffee stout.
The coffee stout.
That's
actually the owner of Black Dog drew that.
Yeah, well, yeah, he's a artistic son of a gun.
Yes.
A lot of his labels were made by his own hand, and there's a whole wall of them over here.
The only one I will not recommend. So far, the only beer I will not recommend is the Cousin Eddie beer during Christmas time. That tasted like, and no offense, Black Dog, I love you guys. Love you. My two aunts are huge supporters of that place, and the owner. Actually, I met the owners at my aunt's birthday party.
I enjoyed the raspberry, but I'm not a huge fan of sours.
But if you don't like anything sour and fruity, oh no, don't drink it.
It's not
It's
bad, but
it took me forever to get it down, and
yeah,
everybody knows that I do like my craft beers.
they sell them in 4 packs, and I have eyes on 2 of them. So that tells you anything.
Right,
That's just the way it is. And
starting over, but it's okay. I can link the two together.
gotcha. And you can edit this little
Yeah,
ramble out. Cool. So yeah, no offense, Thirsty Dog. Or Black Dog, excuse me. There's
Yeah.
another brewery in Ohio called Thirsty Dog Brewery. They
Is
have
there?
dog-themed beers like Labrador Lager. Their dark stout is called Old Leg Humper. It's a pretty good brewery, but that's Ohio. We're in Indiana.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, big supporters of Black Dog. But yeah, the Cousin Eddie beer that they do during Christmas time, I don't recommend it whatsoever. Go buy it. I collect the can.
If you like Pete's Wicked Strawberry Ale,
No.
just imagine that sour, and then you'll enjoy it. So I didn't hate it, but I didn't like it either. I like my dark beers. I'm a stout man. I'm
Yeah.
an IPA man.
Yeah.
And I like my light beers. So Moore's Light is an excellent one.
Moore's Light's not bad. It kind of tastes, almost tastes like kind of Miller Lite in an odd way.
Yeah.
It's got a decent flavor to it. So
that's how Floyd impacted Dillinger. Get back to that. It was all, everything was just happening at the same time.
right.
So the FBI's resources, what few there were spread out. And the lawman that took the greatest interest in Dillinger outside of Purvis and the FBI was a guy named Matt Leach. And that gentleman was the captain of the Indiana State Police, which at the time had 41 members, including clerks. So it wasn't very big.
Yes, that is correct.
And if you got across the line, they could do anything to him if they wanted to.
Right.
There was just no jurisdiction.
Right.
So he was in prison, and he got out of prison with the parole and everything, and he started robbing banks. Now, I don't remember the string of banks. I don't remember the places and dates, and that's really irrelevant. He needed to get funds to break out his friends.
Right.
And he had a wife named Burl Hovius when he was younger, but he met another woman named Mary Longmaker from Ohio.
Okay.
He was over in Ohio visiting her, and he robbed a bank in Bluffton. He robbed a bank in there's another town. Like I said, I can't remember them all. In another town in Ohio, and the local police there, from one of her neighbors, got a tip that he was in town in Dayton, Ohio.
Okay.
They went and arrested him. By this time, he had already gotten guns into Michigan City. He tried twice. So before all the Ohio stuff happened, he had guns wrapped in packages, got them over the fence. But Harry Pierpont and company were not able to retrieve them before somebody else did, turned them in. So he had to try again. He had to rob another bank, get a hold of more guns, and he shipped them into the shirt factory.
Oh, okay.
So when they were received, they were marked with red X, and one of their prison buddies was like, we need this in the shirt shop right away.
Oh, okay.
And you can read The Dillinger Days by John Tollin to see all the details of how they actually broke out using the guns that he got in there. We're not going to go into every little detail of everything.
Right.
So they used those guns and broke out. They're out and free. And then Johnny's arrested in Ohio. So what do you do in a gang? One good turn deserves another. They heard their boys arrested. Johnny was transferred to Lima, Ohio, and locked in a little jail that was basically an add-on of the sheriff's house.
Okay.
He was being held there. Sheriff's name was Jess Sarver. Him and his wife ran the jail, and he wound up. Harry Pierpont and Charlie Makeley went to that jail and said, "We're here to see John Dillinger. We need to see John Dillinger." Sheriff Sarver said, "Well, let me see your credentials." They pull out 45s and say, "Here's our credentials."
And they killed him, right?
They wound up shooting him and killing him.
Okay.
And Johnny was
pretty upset about it.
Yeah, because they treated Johnny great, man.
Yeah.
They were feeding him mashed potatoes and pork chops every night. Johnny was playing pinochle, and one of the other people in that jail was like, I think your gang's here.
Right.
And Pierpont's outside telling all the passersby that the gunshots were people moving stuff around and dropping things.
Right.
People believed it and all that. They got away.
Right.
That was just one of his jailbreaks.
Right. Yes.
And in the future, Charlie Makeley and Harry Pierpont and a gentleman named Russell Clark, another member of the gang, were the three individuals that broke him out of the Lima jail.
Right.
Now, all three were tried for that crime later on. Harry Pierpont, Charlie Makeley both wound up getting the death sentence in Ohio. Russell Clark was sentenced to, mercy was recommended by the jury. So he was sentenced to prison.
Okay.
And it was, shortly after that Johnny met Evelyn Frechette, Billy Frechette, which was his main love, the one he loved the most.
Right.
But Johnny was also known to be a horny bastard. So later on, when things went south and she got pinched, and he wound, that's when he met the other. Anyway, and they decided to go on vacation. Some other robberies occurred. There's all this other stuff is still going on. They still robbed banks. They got funds to go on vacation. They decided to spend the holidays in Florida. They went down to Daytona.
Okay.
Johnny was almost killed by the hell's her name? I can't remember her name, but a girlfriend of one of the members of the gang. They were down there in Florida for the holiday, New Year's Eve, when all of the fireworks was going off. Johnny was just one time that I know of that he was ever known to be drunk, because Johnny was also not a drinker.
That's
He
perfect.
thought the planning and the carrying out in the aftermath should all be done stone cold sober. When he was drinking that night, he decided to take his Thompson outside and let loose a couple bursts over the ocean. Go with the fireworks.
Yes, I've heard that.
Now the woman, I cannot freaking for the life of me remember her name. It was one, I want to say it was Pierpont's girlfriend.
Right.
So Dolores Delaney, I can't remember if that was Pierpont's girlfriend. That seems right. Again, you can fact check a lot of these things and see my mix-ups and rectify them yourselves. I apologize for that. Like I said, so much up here. Well, she wanted to shoot the gun. And yes. Johnny was like, all right. When he was instructing her on its use.
Like, here you go.
She got nervous and pulled the trigger, and the gun went and missed Johnny's face by millimeters. How he survived that. That's something else about Mr. Johnny. He was known to have the luck of the devil himself. I mean,
that's true. Yes.
Some call it skill, some call it more of Dillinger's luck.
Right.
Yeah, he was almost killed then by a member of the gang's group of friends.
Uh-huh.
When the holiday was over, they decided that they were going to lay low for a while and went to Tucson, Arizona. They decided to go out west.
That's true. Yes.
And the gang went west. Johnny went by way of Chicago to pick up Billy Frechette.
Right.
They all met up in Tucson. Now, Pierpont was recognized from a wanted poster by a Tucson police officer. They wound up, he had the address of the house everybody was staying at on a piece of paper, and when he was getting arrested, he shoved it in his mouth to try to get rid of it.
Oh, okay. I did not hear that.
Rib separating truncheon or a gun barrel or something. He freaking hit him in the ribs and he coughed it out, and they found his house. Long story short, essentially, there's a funny side note to the whole Tucson thing in a minute, but they wound up getting to the house and catching them all, and they're all sitting in Tucson jail. The funny part was the hotel they were all staying at before they got the house caught on fire, a furnace fire. And Makeley and them were trying to go in the house and get their luggage because it's full of Thompson machine guns and, all this other stuff, all their guns. And they were trying to climb up the outside of the building to get to the second story to get this luggage. And a fireman and the bell clerk managed to get these guns out for them.
Oh, okay.
He tipped them what would be around $50 in today's money for thank you. And they're like, this is heavy. It's our luggage.
Right.
So that's the funny part. They went and got their freaking guns for them out of this burning building. So when they got caught in Tucson, that's how we wound up in Crown Point.
That's what I was getting ready to get to.
Yes.
And that's how we ended up in Crown Point, which is one of the most, to me, one of the most famous escapes Dillinger ever did.
That ain't to you. That's fact. That's not your opinion. That is the.
I know, but I'm
that
just
is the
saying,
number one-
in my eyes,
well, in mine too, and everyone who's familiar with it, that story just takes the cake. But while they were in Tucson, man, there was 4 states fighting over him.
I heard that. Yes,
There was Illinois,
yes,
Indiana, Ohio, and Wisconsin. They were all down there fighting for him. And Tucson police were, and the Arizona magistrates and all that were like, well, who's giving the biggest reward? Well, Johnny only had at the time a $25 reward on his head for parole violation.
right.
That's it. He didn't have no wanted dead or alive 5,000 blah blah yet. That came later, after he was shanghaied, so to speak, and he was promised that he was going to go to Wisconsin, and he wound up going. Well, you're going back to Indiana, Johnny.
Right.
Purvis, or not Purvis, Leach. Purvis might have been too, but Leach, not Leach, the captain of the Indiana State Police and all them flew out there to get him.
Oh, okay.
Put him on a plane and flew him back to Lake County, Indiana.
Right.
Because before they went to Florida, there was a robbery gone wrong in East Chicago.
Okay.
And during that robbery, an East Chicago policeman got killed. Mr. O'Malley was his name. Patrick.
Oh, okay.
That is the one so-called confirmed murder out of all the stuff he's done, all the banks he's robbed, all the times he's had to fire his gun. He's had a couple of close calls in St. Paul and Chicago. That's the one time he ever got somebody.
But
and there's still not even concrete evidence.
That's what I was getting ready to say, but there's not concrete evidence that Johnny actually did it.
But they said he did, and they charged him for it.
Right.
And that's why he went to Lake County, because East Chicago's in Lake County. So he went to Crown Point Jail, and they were doing all these filming and interviews. And one of the most famous photographs of John Dillinger is him leaning on the prosecutor.
Kind of like they're buddies.
This. So they're filming. There is video of this out there.
There is video of it.
There's no audio. The audio is, 90 years ago. The audio is gone. So none of us will ever know what Johnny sounded like when he talked. Maybe he had that half Southern, half Midwestern accent. Johnny Depp portrayed him with a Southern accent, which it wouldn't surprise me. My buddy Scott works.
But Mike's mom, Frances, which was John's little sister, actually told Johnny Depp himself, said that was the best portrayal she's ever seen anybody portray Johnny.
So I'm led to believe Johnny had a Southern accent.
And Johnny Depp.
He had that crooked ass smile, and he was.
And Johnny Depp actually told Francis that was the best compliment anybody's ever gave him.
Don't understand that because he was a fine actor.
Yes.
I thought Edward Scissorhands was pretty stupid, but man, have you seen him in Rum?
No.
Have you seen him in where he played Thompson?
Hunter S. Thompson?
Yeah, Fear and Loathing.
Sure did.
He's done a lot of good stuff.
I actually hated how they did Dark Shadows.
Yeah.
I was upset about it. I was very upset about it. Very.
Just because
very upset.
It's because I thought Edward Scissorhands was kind of not all that. He still played the part wonderfully.
It just because I'm a big fan of like old black and white shows and films, and
right.
Dark Shadows to me was a classic.
Right.
And they totally cartooned it, made it in the future, made it modern day, and I was like, okay. And they made Johnny Depp nothing like Barnabas Collins. Absolutely nothing. So I was kind of upset. I love Tim Burton. I love almost everything Tim Burton's ever done. But that was the one thing I could probably kick Tim Burton in the nays over.
Fair enough.
I was like, that was just Wrong.
Really only got into the Nightmare Before Christmas. But we digress.
Right.
So he's in Crown Point.
Okay, so he's at so let's go back to Crown Point, which is a town that I've never been to yet here in Indiana.
It's up there in northwestern Indiana. I got to drive by the jail. I go to a beer festival up there, and we went to eat mere blocks from that jail, and I got my buddy to drive by it. I got to see the outside. There used to be a museum in Brown County, Nashville, which is south of us.
Not far from here at all. I go to Brown County all the time.
That museum was moved to Crown
One
Point.
of the best tourist towns ever.
Yes, it's a beautiful place. And that museum was moved to Crown Point at one time, and now all this stuff is who knows where, because there's not a Dillenger museum anywhere anymore.
No.
But I'll talk more about the movie in a little bit too. The Crown Point Jail is one of, if not the most famous jailbreak ever by anyone.
And it's also a haunted location as well.
Right.
If all you paranormal people out there, it's also a haunted location. If you want to check
There's
it.
a couple of videos out there. I don't know who made them, so I can't credit them.
That's what I'm
there's a
saying. I
video
can't.
called-
I've never been there yet, so
There's a video on YouTube called The Ghost of Dillenger. I'd love to give that channel credit, but I can't remember it. So you can do that in the comments for me if you know. But I don't understand it because nobody died that day.
no.
Now, Holly,
See that?
yeah,
That's where I try to tell people when
when it comes to that.
when it comes to things when people say something's haunted and take it with a grain of salt.
Always.
I mean, take it for entertainment value. Like, because I am not
the Murder House.
Yeah.
If you go stay somewhere like Stone King Cemetery, both those locations are in Iowa, or even the Slippery Noodle Bar that's supposed to be haunted in Indy.
Which I actually done a paranormal investigation there. I've done an actual investigation.
If you stay the night in places like that, you hear shit go bump in the night, odds are somebody's messing with you.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's what I tell people. Take it for entertainment value. Go have fun with it.
And enjoy it.
And just have fun with it, but don't.
I don't crap on the paranormal. I'm
crap
a skeptic
on it.
like Bud.
I don't crap on it, but
at the same time, it's something I've got to see
the
and
historic,
not be able to explain.
But the historic locations,
yes,
enjoy the history. That's all that's it.
And Crown Point is extraordinarily, that jail, haunted or not, is a huge piece of history. That Sheriff Lillian Hawley was the sheriff of Lake County and ran that jail and was touting it as escape-proof. She had National Guard.
She's the one that actually said no one can escape my jail.
Yeah, no one's getting out of this jail.
No one can.
I guarantee John Dillinger's not escaping from
here. And here's John Dillinger.
Hold my beer.
Hold my beer. Let me show you how this is done.
And this man from Mooresville carves a gun out of a freaking chunk of wood. All right, there's speculation as to who has. There's a couple people on YouTube who claim to have the real.
I don't think anybody has it.
I think if I were to venture a guess, and I could be wildly wrong, I bet you money Johnny Depp has that gun.
I don't think nobody has
it. Who knows what happened?
I don't
He's
think.
Probably in a hole on the farm. We don't know.
Because everybody, you can go on eBay. And there's people on eBay that says they have it.
Claiming to be selling it for thousands of dollars.
But let me tell you this.
Buyer beware.
I know John's nephew, and he will actually tell, kind of like he's confronted people. Not really in a bad, I don't mean that in a bad way.
No.
But actually said, well, okay, is a certain what on it? So that's what I'm saying. I mean, anybody can go out there and carve a gun.
Out of wood.
And, this is the one. And try to sell it to you for...
It was painted with boot black. Like
correct.
Plain old shoe polish.
Uh-huh.
And he uses this wooden gun to corral people, get out of his cell, and get these people, the warden included, all these people, warden, trustees, a couple other prisoners, and any other guard, crammed into this jail cell. And was able to use that gun to procure Thompson machine guns, 2 of them.
Uh-huh.
He gave one to Henry Youngblood, his accomplice, who was a young black man who was locked up there at the time. And he goes down to the garage And nobody there was worried about it. A guy with a gun, this is normal. And Johnny says, which car's the fastest? He goes, well, that's the Buick. Where's the keys? So Johnny's cocky, smug self goes back through the whole jail
And gets the keys.
It talks to the warden. Where's the keys? The warden was like, I don't know. So Johnny goes back to the garage. Goes, what's the next fastest car? Oh, that'd be the V8 Ford. He steals Sheriff Hawley's car.
And also in the movie, they use the actual car.
No.
They don't?
Not that. That's not the car.
That's not the car?
No, I'll get there.
Which one? Okay.
They used the Studebaker that they robbed the Greencastle Bank with.
Okay, that's it.
I'll tell you that.
I got mixed up on the cars.
We'll get there later.
Okay.
The car he was driving when he left was Sheriff Hawley's car, and he drove to Chicago. So that's the first time he crossed state lines with stolen property, the first time he was technically guilty of a federal crime in them days.
Right.
That's the mistake he made, because now the FBI can get involved.
Correct.
So they're hanging out in Chicago, and some more robberies occur and all this and that. Him and 5 other men and 4 women travel to a little lodge up in Wisconsin to lay low. He dyed his hair red. His hair was a lovely henna color at the time. I don't know. I've never seen a color photo of him, but you know what I mean.
Correct. Yeah.
So they go up to this place and hang out and lay low.
Right.
And they are recognized. They're playing cards in the bar of the Little Bohemia Lodge up in northern Wisconsin.
Yeah. Right.
And the owner, his name was Wanaka. That I do know. His wife's name was Nan. His name was Emil Wanaka. Was entertaining this crowd of people. And Johnny was recognized. He calls him into his office. And Wanaka was said, "You're Dillenger, ain't you?" Johnny said, "Are you nervous? Are you scared?" He goes, "Look, all we want to do is relax. We'll pay you well. We'll lay low for a few days, and we'll leave."
Right.
Like he said, he didn't. Manaka said, "I don't want my club shot up.
Right.
I don't want my lodge shot up."
Yeah.
Well, he told his wife Nan, "Yeah, the guy with the red hair is John Dillinger." And Nan got nervous and tipped her brother-in-law, "You need to do something about this. We can't."
Right.
We watched. At this time, Babyface Nelson was in the gang.
Oh, okay.
So, and Babyface Nelson, Lester Gillis, was a legitimate psychopath. He didn't give a shit. He would just gun you down and then go eat something. He didn't care.
Right.
And Johnny had run-ins with him about it.
Right.
Johnny don't like. He fired his gun through a door to escape a couple times. And there's been a couple in St. Paul.
Yeah.
Apartment in St. Paul. He had to shoot his way out of that.
Right.
He shot his gun in a way where he actually ate one of his own bullets due to a ricochet in his leg because he didn't want to freaking shoot nobody.
That's true.
He wanted to scare him out of his way so he can leave.
Usually when Johnny, from what I hear, when Johnny was kind of like, you getting that over yourself?
Yeah, a little hole in my there we go.
Like, kind of like when Johnny was like kind of shooting his gun. They say he would like point it in the air, like so he wouldn't hit nobody whatsoever. He never. And there's even a story, and actually, it came from Mike, which is John's nephew, friend of mine, and well, actually, great friend of my dad's. And I just happened to know him ever since I was a kid. And
I think it's awesome. Anyway,
dude, hold on. Let me tell. No. I got to tell a story. Let me tell you how good Mike is at body work and a painter. Let me tell you how good this man is. You can take a car, put it in this high-tech body shop, right? Big paint booth, whatever. The vacuums that gets all the dust out. We pull my car, which he taught me how to sand it. He taught me how to scuff the metal. He taught me how to do a lot of things, to prep it up, to get it prepped. And so by the time we got it prepped, we got it in the garage. We're in a garage. We're not in a paint booth. We're in a garage. Right over here. He takes box fans, puts them in the window where the air's blowing out. So everything is blowing out of the garage.
Yeah.
Box fans.
His own vacuum, essentially.
So we shot. He painted, clear coat, everything in a garage.
Which is awesome.
Because he didn't have a body shop at the time to do it in. But he told me he'll do it.
I mean, the price is right. He'd probably still do it, honestly.
And believe it or not, he didn't even hardly charge me a lot of money to do it. He just said, just make sure you buy all the paint and stuff, and yeah.
Your own materials.
And I mean,
price on the labor.
So, but yeah, John Dillinger's nephew painted my car in our garage.
Not 30 feet that way.
No.
That's pretty badass, I have to say.
And I gotta say, when we were done, you would have thought that car came out, and I am not even remotely joking when I say this.
It looked better than anything Mako or Earl Scheib could do. Let's put it that way. I mean,
you would have thought it came out of a professional body shop. That's how good Mike. But actually, if anybody remember any Mooresville natives out there, remember Thompson's Body Shop? That was Mike's dad, and that's how Mike learned how to do. But Mike learned all that stuff when he was a kid.
Yeah, and that was John Dillinger's brother-in-law.
John Dillinger's brother-in-law, correct. So I got to tell. I always love telling that story.
Awesome.
So
I remember the first time I heard it at work talking about Johnny.
Yeah. So yeah, Mike's a great guy, man. I mean, good. And if we decide to do this, do another podcast,
we may have a sequel.
There's a Joe Malello. I would love to get him on here.
Oh,
love to get Mike on. Love to get so you guys can have
horse's mouth type
information that comes from the horse's mouth, and I can get that done for you guys. Or I will do.
We're gonna make efforts. Let's put it that way.
I will make a huge effort to get that done. Trust me.
Joe Malello did a podcast. Does a podcast called Infamous Indie, which has
Infamous Indie
with local.
And it's a great podcast, guys. Go check it out.
He has a 3-part episode called Digging Up Dillenger, and episode 2 and 3 features a retired FBI agent and Mike and Travis.
Yes.
Mike, Johnny's nephew, and Travis, Johnny's grandnephew. And
I've known Travis since he was a little bitty dude.
Now, there was a talk at the Mooresville Public Library that I got to attend where Mike, Joe, and Travis were there. And I got to meet Mike myself. I've never met a nicer guy.
He's a great guy. Real great guy.
And the apple don't far fall from the tree. Right? Mike ain't robbing people. He's painting cars. But Mike would also never hurt a soul.
No.
Johnny never hurt nobody on purpose. And that's the point of all of that right now. But yeah, he did all that without hurting nobody. And now they're at Little Bohemia. There's Pat Riley, John Dillinger, Homer Van Meter, Babyface Nelson, one other guy whose name I can't remember, Pat Charrington, which is a girlfriend, Billy Brichette, which is Johnny's girlfriend, and another woman I can't remember. Now, they were all staying at Little Bohemia, and this is where I was running my mouth about Purvis earlier and how dumb he is. So, Nan and Emil's brother, I think it was actually Nan's brother, so, Wanaka's brother-in-law, got word to the FBI. Purvis and some men flew out there, a few others drove out there. They all met in Rhinelander, Wisconsin, about 50 miles to the south of this lodge, and they're planning, how the hell can we get Dillenger? We're going to get him. This is going to be a thing. We're getting him. And they drove up there to try to plan this raid. Now, there were customers in that bar. This was a Sunday. It's the middle of winter. The lodge itself was not all that busy. The cars were all hidden.
Right.
Pat Riley and Pat Charrington, one of the girlfriends, took off to St. Paul to get money and ammunition. Now, John Dillinger got nervous, and he said, well, we're leaving as soon as Pat Riley gets back. So Emil had to drive fast down to Rhinelander to let Melvin Purvis know plans have changed. They're not leaving in the morning. They're leaving tonight.
Oh, okay.
So they cobbled this raid together.
Right.
Bunch of FBI men. One of them's name is Baum. I remember that name because he felt so bad. So people are coming and going, and they can't hear the FBI's orders to stop, and they wind up killing 3 innocent people. One of them, identify yourself. He said, my name's John. It wasn't John Dillinger. It was some other John.
Yeah, some other guy.
They killed 3 innocent people, and these guys all escape on foot through the freaking woods. How the hell can you surround a place and still lose 5, or lose 6 gentlemen and kill 3 innocent ones? Yeah, but how the? What I want to know is how the hell did that little pansy keep his job after that?
I have no idea.
Now he did get demoted a little bit, and they made Sam Cowley head of the Dillenger squad of trying to get him. There was also a Dillenger squad in Chicago, 24/7, always on the lookout for him, and all this and that.
Right.
Red Hamilton was the name I
Red
couldn't remember.
Hamilton. Yeah.
And that was the 6th guy I couldn't remember earlier, and I kicked myself for that. He was very important. He wound up. So they're making their way. They all wind up back together except Lester. Babyface was off. He had a whole different escape plan.
Hello?
So 3 innocent people die. And I just don't understand how he kept his job.
That is amazing, yeah.
So what wound up happening was Hoover, he got a little bit of a demotion out of it. He made Sam Cowley director, special agent in charge, and all that in Chicago. And they went back to St. Paul for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
And then they left St. Paul, and they were on the Spiral Bridge, which used to be, I think it got torn down. It was a famous bridge that went up and then over the Mississippi River.
Okay.
Back in Illinois, go back to Chicago.
Right.
And the police seen them because Jack Hamilton, he lost his hat. So he had a T-shirt tied around his head, Indian style, and they noticed him. So they were creeping up behind him, started shooting at the tires.
Okay.
Well, Johnny was like, no, broke the back window out with the butt of his 38 and was kind of firing back. And a bullet went right by Johnny, somehow missed him and hit Hamilton.
Oh, okay.
So now you got poor Jack Hamilton with a bullet in him. So they turned around, went back to St. Paul, and it's like nobody there would help him, like at all. They're like, you're too hot. We can't have you here.
Right.
There's nothing in the news but Little Bohemian.
Right.
So they decide they're going to go find sanctuary in Chicago somewhere, and went to a couple places there, hung out at this tavern owned by some Irishman or another. And they stayed there for a while, and Hamilton just got worse and worse.
Right.
Nobody would help.
Yeah.
So they got a hold of this doctor named Doc Moran, who was going to try, and they wound up going out to Aurora, Illinois, and staying with Boney Davis, Doc Barker,
right,
Davis's girlfriend, 2 lesser members of the Barker Tarpus gang. They were nervous that that Moran guy was going to give the place up, and they were prepared to leave. And they were like, "No, we're going to stay here. It's Red. We can't move Red.
Right.
Oh, Red Hamilton, we can't move him." And gangrene had done set in. His wound was gnarly, and apparently there was a horrible odor coming out of it. Rabbits tried to do what she could. She fished the bullet out, patched him up. There's a fictionized version of this story written by Stephen King called The Death of Jack Hamilton.
Yes.
It tells a funny story about how Johnny supposedly got the scar on his mustache. Now, how he really got that scar on his lip is unknown. That's why he started growing his mustache, to hide that scar.
Right.
Red wound up dying. Then they took him to a gravel pit south of town, buried him. Johnny poured lye on him, his fingerprints on his fingers and his face.
Mm-hmm.
They still were able to identify him when they found him. His
right.
body was drug up by a dog and fisherman. So then at that point, that's when Johnny, he felt his luck was running out. He met up with some guys, O'Leary, Trabasco, and some other doctor. He decided to try to get plastic surgery and have his fingerprints obliterated. They tried to fill in his chin dimple, got rid of the mole up here.
Yes.
None of it did any good. The world.
He was still recognized. Yeah.
all over town.
Right.
But he thought he was able to live his quiet life. He met Polly Hamilton, started hanging out with her, and Anna Sage was the infamous Woman in Red. Anybody familiar with Johnny Dillinger is familiar with the Woman in Red.
Uh-huh.
And she started making a deal with Melvin Purvis. Like, she was a Romanian national busted for prostitution.
Correct.
Known for running a brothel. Like, if you can fix it to where I don't get deported, I will help you find John Dillinger. I know exactly where he's at.
Right. But there's a twist to that story.
Turns out Martin Zarkovich from the East Chicago Police Department was her boyfriend. And nobody.
And actually, he's the one that actually would help Johnny.
Yes.
Kind of give him inside hints on.
Yes.
To lay low and stuff like that.
Yes. And there's a museum in Rockford, Illinois that has Martin Zarkovich's gun, and it's supposed to be credited with the gun that killed Johnny. And if that's to be believed, then okay. The movie made it look like Charlie Winstead, which was a special FBI agent from Texas, brought up here,
right,
to help hunt him.
Yes,
and the Dillinger Squad and all that. Captain Steggy was the captain of the Dillenger Squad in Chicago.
Right.
Now, the movie Public Enemies showed Johnny Depp walk into the Dillenger Squad office, ask one of them what the score to the baseball game on the radio was. He got answered and left. There's no evidence that really occurred, although he really did walk into the Bankers Building where the Dillenger Squad was housed with Polly Hamilton to help her get her waitress license.
That's true.
And the Indiana State Police captain that was chasing him all the time, all the months, weeks, Johnny was such a cocky bastard that he would call him up and taunt him on the phone all the time.
Isn't there a story where they was like at a diner?
They were at the same diner at the same time at downtown Indianapolis.
Downtown Indy, yeah.
And Johnny left and calls him and says,
"But who's with Johnny?"
I can't remember.
But there was somebody with Johnny that wanted to kill him right there. It was Pierpont. Yes.
Because Matt Leach threw Pierpont's mother in jail.
Yes. So he wanted to kill, and Johnny was like, no, I got this. So they waited for him to go. So then Johnny called him and goes,
"You stuttering bastard.
Like, how's that pie?" So he was on the phone going, damn.
And apparently, supposedly, Christmas, Matt Leach had a book arrive in the mail called How to Be a Detective. And it was rumored that Johnny sent it to him.
Oh my God.
I don't know how factual that is. That's the kind of guy he was. He played Catch Me If You Can.
And that's what
Frank Abernathy, only in the 30s.
You see, that's what I try to tell people is like Johnny wasn't a hothead. He wasn't.
No.
He was like more like, I mean, even like when he had his arm like at Crown Point on that prosecutor, he had the cockiest look on his face, like, sideways, I might be in jail, but guess what? I'm going to get out of here. You ain't got me.
And he was answering questions. What prompted that was all the photographers and newsreel people were.
Oh, yeah, they all egged it on.
They all yelled at Estelle, "Put your arm around him, Robert! Put your arm around him!"
Yeah.
But Johnny took that cue and just leaned on him.
Yeah. So that's what I try to tell a lot of people. It's like, it's like, a lot of people, like all the old timers, always said, like he wasn't really, like he wasn't a hothead or nothing. He was more smarter. He was a lot smarter than what people gave him credit for.
Right. And so, Anna Sage tried to work out that deal to not get deported.
Correct.
She wound up getting deported anyway.
She did. That's true. She did.
She got with the East Chicago Police Department and the FBI and set Johnny up. So we're going to the movies tonight. I don't know if we're going to the Marlboro or the Biograph. I'll let you know. And then she calls him back and says, he's here. We're leaving shortly. We're going to the Biograph.
Uh-huh.
So they set up an ambush thing.
Okay, everybody pay attention to this story because when he mentioned Jimmy that got arrested all the time, now pay attention. Okay, keep going.
So they go to the movie. The movie was Manhattan Melodrama starring Clark Gable. And they watched this movie. They have guys staked over here. They have two guys on one side, two guys on the other. Purvis is standing right there by the door. And he's supposed to light a cigar when Johnny comes out to signal everybody this is him. We got, I want to try to take him alive. Bullshit. I want to try to take him alive. This is our opportunity.
Yeah, right.
We have to take this opportunity to get him. We want him alive. And bullshit. Johnny and Purvis made eye contact. And Johnny gave no indication of recognition or anything. He just kept walking. And he lights his cigar and signals everybody, and everybody, they're following him.
Yeah.
And Johnny, just spidey sense was tingling and looked over his shoulder and was fixing to pull Jimmy Lawrence. I don't know, probably goes to pull his, sticks his hand in his pocket, and they just unload on him.
Yeah.
I believe 4 shots were fired from 3 different guns. 3 bullets hit Johnny. One of them was a superficial wound to his hip. One of them went in his back somewhere. And the fatal bullet went in his neck on the left and came out under his right eye. He was dead before he hit the ground.
Right.
Now, this is where things get tricky and why we think it's Jimmy Lawrence or somebody else.
And not Johnny.
And not Johnny. And we also believe the FBI was well aware of it.
And the FBI,
anyway,
yeah.
Dillenger was killed. They call the ambulance. They take him to Alexian Brothers Hospital in Chicago, go through the morgue. They have the fingerprint guy confirmed by the fingerprints. Yeah, this is Johnny. But then you get a hold of the autopsy paperwork, man. John Dillinger did not have brown eyes. John Dillinger did not have cauliflowered ears. He had jug handle ears like mine.
Yes.
This guy had cauliflowered ears and brown eyes. He had a fat face. Johnny was.
So that's why
Johnny was short, porky, but he was. Look at the death map. Look at any photo you want. That's not Johnny.
No. Even like
there was when they brought his body back to Mooresville 2 days later and had his funeral. Hundreds of people walked through there, and all these old timey guys are like that.
See, that's why when me and you first started talking about Dillinger a lot, and I told you that my great uncle that worked with all the old timers of Mooresville that knew Johnny.
It went to that funeral.
Went to the funeral and looked in the casket and said,
"There's no way that's Johnny.
There's no way." And it was like almost everybody in Mooresville said it. Almost everybody's kind of like, that wasn't him.
Right.
Like,
and while he was wanted before the Biograph incident happened, after the Crown Point incident happened, the town of Mooresville got together and wrote a letter to the governor. I can't remember if Paul McNutt was still in office at the time or the one after him.
That I don't know.
But this letter implored a pardon.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
That much love. He's going to break out of prison. Mooresville's still trying to get him pardoned. They loved him around here.
They did. I mean,
a little backtrack thing. Okay. Before he got killed, but after he got out of Crown Point, he came home to Mooresville to visit his family.
Oh.
Goes to the farmhouse, walks in, says, "Guess who?" And his dad was like, "Johnny, what are you doing here? You know this house is being watched by the FBI." There was FBI guys watching that house, and friend told friend, who told friend, who told friend, and before you know it, the entirety of Mooresville is aware that Johnny's at home having a chicken dinner with his family, but nobody told the cops.
Yep.
And then Johnny and Billy knock out. They had no clue he was even here.
That story's been told for
right. And there's a photograph of Johnny standing outside of his house holding a Thompson submachine gun and a little piece of wood shaped like a gun, just with this shitty grin on his face, like, "Yeah, I did it. I'm at home."
Yeah. That is like one of the most famous Dillinger photos ever.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why he's thought of as a hometown hero rather than Mooresville's bad boy.
So that's why when me and you, like when you brought up Jimmy Lawrence, that's why we do believe that it was Lawrence, that Anna Sage had it set up to where instead of Johnny,
yes,
it was Jimmy Lawrence and not Johnny, because it was like,
they was all behind the FBI's back.
And it was kind of like, but it was kind of like basically where, kind of like they thought he would probably get arrested, but not gunned down. No one knew that was going to happen.
Right.
So that's why.
Purpose.
So that's why I do believe that you said it 1,000 times. Johnny was not a stupid man.
No.
There's no way he would have went in Chicago,
Where he's
where
very well known.
Where he's very well known, where anybody can spot him. And all of a sudden, here I am.
Go to the movies with impunity.
Yeah.
No.
There's no way he would have done that. So I do believe that it was set up with Johnny Anastage and
Jimmy Lawrence.
And
Martin Zarkovich.
And it
was all behind Purvis's back.
So I do believe it was all set up to where Johnny could get out of the country.
Yes.
I believe that wholeheartedly.
Yes.
I do believe Johnny did get out of the country. I do.
Yeah, whether it was Mexico, South America, or maybe not even out of the country, California, who knows?
Right.
There's a whole other thing about that you can listen to in Joe Malello's podcast, Infamous Indy. Sorry to plug the guy twice on your podcast. But
no, I mean, plug him all the way, man. I'm all for
episode 2, I believe.
I'm all for supporting other people.
He was talking to this FBI guy about a letter the Indy Star received in 1959 containing handwriting and a photograph of an aged John Dillinger. So in 1959, he was pushing close to 60. He would have been 60 and 63. So he was 50-something years old.
And it was basically saying, guess what? You didn't get me. And now let's talk about Purvis one more time. Let's talk about the FBI one more time. It's basically going, we're going to make sure, and this is where, now let's go back to the funeral. Let's go back to the autopsy.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the facts. Facts that I do believe it was not John. So basically, if somebody said, yes, that's not John, then here, guess what? Now the FBI is going, well, now we look more damn retarded.
After bungling a surefire raid to get him and killing innocent people in the process.
Now you just killed another innocent man.
Right. In the process. And another theory that ties into all that is the FBI was well aware it didn't want to look stupid, so they covered the whole thing up. And the story is what it is on their website and in all the files. The story is what it is. We shot Johnny in 1934.
Yeah.
July 22nd, 1934 was the night. Very, very hot.
And that's why, since he mentioned Joe Malello, which I hope to get him, I would love to interview with him. Man, this guy, I love his podcast. Feel free to check it up. He's got a great podcast.
Yeah.
And
probably dig up a link to the Spotify or whatever.
Yeah, if I can find his link, I'll put it down below for you guys.
Yeah.
And but I mean, even all like the retired, like that podcast that Mike was on, Travis was on, and the retired FBI agent.
Mm-hmm. Digging up.
Now let me tell you guys something. Now we have a retired FBI agent that is saying, I don't think it was John that got killed that day either.
We have a retired FBI agent saying the letter the Indy Star received.
Because he started digging in deep.
Is Johnny's handwriting and Johnny's photo doing the quarter compares that the FBI does.
Because they didn't have that technology back in that day either.
Right.
We have to think about that.
There's also videos out there of people trying to get DNA off the pants that the man who got killed outside the bio.
Now, supposedly Johnny Depp owns that now, right?
Right. And there is a video where they were trying to do
all right, Johnny Depp.
And, well, they were swabbing the crotch of those pants.
Yeah.
Any man knows your balls sweat. It's going to be there.
Right.
At any rate. And Mr. Thompson was willing to have a blood draw to confirm.
Oh, he'd do an art. I'm pretty sure.
Now, way back in 34, when they had the funeral at Crown Hill Cemetery, which I am a frequent visitor. 3 days after...
I've done a ton of photography there.
3 days after they lowered the casket, John Dillinger's father ordered 3 feet of earth dug out, a whole bunch of scrap iron and concrete put in there because body snatching and grave robbers.
Which I don't believe that.
That could be the truth.
I do.
What I believe is that was done.
I believe that's a fraction of it.
It was done to fucking...
It's okay.
It's done to prevent anyone...
We have editing.
It was done to prevent anybody from digging that body up to confirm that either A, that casket is empty, or B, the body in it is not Johnny. And Mike, a few years back, there was going to be a show. They found some artifacts on the farmhouse and all this and that. It's a whole other story, but it was in the process.
The History Channel was involved.
They were in the process of going to exhume that body for identification purposes and cause of death.
And Mike lost the court case. Not really lost it, Didn't technically lose the court case, but it was like a judge had to. I technically think it's on halt. I don't think no one lost anything, so let me correct myself on that statement.
But it's not done, and I heard that from a gentleman earlier who firmly believes it's no.
It's not over.
It's not.
This ain't over.
Because I heard that from the gentleman right over there. You know, he's been around a while. He knows. He's aware. He knows Mike too.
Yeah. We're talking about my dad.
Yeah, big bug.
But even like Travis, Mike's son Travis, I've known Travis since he was a little bitty. I haven't talked to him in a very long time.
He's a
I haven't.
police officer too.
Yes. And Travis is the one that really wanted to start digging into learning about John. He didn't really want to dig into the conspiracy theories, but he wanted to dig in, well, this was my uncle. I want to know more. Then all of a sudden, then Travis is looking at these FBI files going,
wait a minute.
Whoa!
2 + 2 should add up to 4. Why is it adding up to 14?
Let's
dig into this and find out. And that's when all this really got started. And you got his father involved.
Then Mike went down that rabbit hole.
Yes, and I've been firmly in this rabbit hole. It was a few months ago now, but I went to a talk at the library and met these gentlemen and Joe and everybody, and I flat out bottom line Mike. On his face.
Yes, you did.
In front of everybody. You can find footage of this.
I wasn't there, but you told me the story, and I'm like, yeah.
I said, do you or do you not believe that John is in that hole in Crown Hill? He hemmed and hawed. Joe Morello got him on track. Said, hey, now you got to answer his question. And Mike looked at me and he said, no, I don't think he's there.
Right.
Whatever did happen to his remains or how old he did get to be, that's all forever going to be a mystery.
Now,
nobody else is talking.
I do believe that me and you talked about this part. Okay, now when we talked about how the History Channel is going to get involved about exhuming John's body.
Yeah.
And then it went to court.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, it's like they said Crown Hill is the one that put the stop to it. I believe that, but I don't believe it. I believe the FBI got involved. I do believe this, and quote me if you want, I don't care. I believe in it. My opinion, I don't have facts. I don't have evidence.
But
my personal opinion, I believe the FBI got involved because it will prove if you do all this, if you go through this and prove John's not, and say if it's Jimmy Lawrence, or say if it's empty. That's 100% proof that the FBI went, we screwed up. And it will prove the FBI messed up.
They don't want that kind of screw up.
And
right after the little.
Then that means you got to rewrite history.
Yes.
That means That means you got to rewrite history.
Yeah.
That means what went down did not go down. It's like saying, like me coming out here going, there's these woods back here. Sasquatch comes out of there about 2 a.m. and we hang out a little bit.
I'm going to say it was precisely 2:02.
Yeah. So then you're going to go. Then okay, you know me. I got the paranormal podcast. I'm the skeptic. Brookie's the believer. That's what makes our podcast freaking amazing. And I'm the guy. You know me. You've watched my podcast, and I'm the guy going. If you're going to say this, say this, say this, say this. What do you have to back it?
Right.
Have something to back what your claim is. The great Carl Sagan, which Carl Sagan is one of my all-time favorites of all time. Along with Neil deGrasse Tyson and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Carl Sagan, the most famous quote, and I take this with the paranormal stuff. Extraordinary claims deserves extraordinary evidence.
Yes.
Okay, so
that being said,
that being said, let's say if this does go back to court, let's say we win. I'm not saying we, but let's say, okay, let's go forward with this. Now the family wants to make sure if, as a family member, and they do have that right.
Yeah. To identify
the body.
Right, and that is one of the conditions in which an exhumation could take place. Absolutely.
So let's say they dig it up and say if it's Jimmy Lawrence, or say if it's empty, like I just mentioned.
That's my theory.
Guess what?
They're done. And
then now everybody's got questions. Okay,
what happened to
who the hell set this up? How did this go down? What happened to Johnny?
his fate? I believe, and again, I don't have any extra.
Like the letters to the Indianapolis Star?
Yep.
And that's a fact, everybody. You can look that up.
Absolutely.
It's actually, you can look it up on the internet.
Yes.
And we all know the internet. I get it.
The internet.
But the Indianapolis Star does exist. So
then that is backed up by a retired FBI guy.
yes. So that is basically, to me, I do 100% believe, because Johnny, again, you just heard the stories we told about Johnny and how he's kind of a jokester. That was basically like telling everybody, that's like telling the FBI going, I did it again.
Thumbing their nose.
I did it one more time. But guess what? I'm alive.
Yeah.
And that's Johnny's.
Those letters came from California.
Yes.
Now
I believe it went from somewhere to California to Indiana.
Yeah.
That's what I believe.
Yeah, it was addressed and stuffed inside a whole ass other envelope that went to California.
I believe Johnny could have been sitting in like
Mexico, South America. We don't know. We'll never know.
Yeah, no, I don't.
Nobody
have no idea. I have no idea.
His fate will forever be a mystery.
It's like
if this is proven.
And it's almost
like there's a chance he's in that hole, but I really
I think it's a no, I don't think he is either. It's like the mystery of DB Cooper.
Yeah.
Like, I've watched documentary after documentary about DB Cooper, and it's like going, how do you got a guy that was never identified, took a suitcase full of money, disappeared?
Did he have a note too?
He had a note. Correct.
So I wonder if anybody out there, FBI wise, I'm sure you guys are watching this too, you dumbasses.
Dumbasses.
Why don't you take the DB Cooper note and some John Dillinger handwriting and compare that analysis? Because I would not be surprised.
That makes the Red Foreman want to come out and be, dumbass.
I honestly, I don't believe this is a theory. I just come up with this right now, but I just legit would not be surprised if DB Cooper's real name was John Herbert Dillenger.
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised. Because nobody ever knows what happened to him. All that was ever found to him was a bundle of 20s in a river somewhere in Oregon, I think.
That was it, yeah.
Northern California, I don't know, somewhere up that way. Just a pile of money.
Yeah.
Nothing else.
It was weird. I mean, it's like
on like a fart in the wind, just disappeared.
It like story made, yeah.
And that's exactly what Johnny did. He jackrabbited his jackrabbit self.
But even the episode when Josh Gates came.
Yeah.
And Mike and Travis was on that episode with Josh Gates.
Yeah, they found the jar.
That
was confirmed to have male Dillenger DNA on it.
Yes, correct.
Whether it was Johnny's or not, I don't know if that was ever proven, but it had male Dillenger DNA, and the odds of anybody else writing on that thing, what was written on it, the odds of that being anybody other than Johnny are slim to nil.
Because if you go out to the farmhouse, and then it's like, then at the house, if you watch the Josh Gates episode, the house they were at is directly right across the street from the farmhouse. So that property
used to be
was all over. Was
huge.
Yeah, there was an apartment complex back that way. No. You can turn around in a cul-de-sac.
Yeah.
And
I'm taking my wife by the house.
Yeah, so that's what's very interesting to me. So that's why after this podcast, we will try to do maybe more episodes. I'm going to try to contact Mike. I might try to contact Joe Malello and keep this going, because I want to turn also this into a photo project to where I can show you guys the photos of what's where. And I want to drive to Crown Point. I'll do a weekend road trip and do some photos up there, the Crown Point jail and stuff like that. So I turn this into kind of like a podcast and a project with photography and all that. So that's why it's called B. Kelly Photography and Road Trips.
Yeah.
So you guys get to road trip in your mind here to Mooresville.
Yes. You'll get to see where all this stuff happened.
You'll
get to see where the Morgan robbery took place right by the church on High Street. You'll get to see the building where his grocery store was. You'll get to see the house where John Dillinger visited in the middle of the night and nobody freaking knew it.
Right.
Even though they're watching it again.
Exactly.
How do you let this man slip through your fingers so many times? They almost had him in St. Paul.
Almost.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
got a bullet wound to the leg.
Yeah.
Away. It was his own bullet because he was not trying to freaking kill no cops.
Right.
Again, I'm willing to bet he had a lot of thoughts in his head when that cop got killed in Chicago. He was like, "Oh shit."
Oh yeah.
And that's even if it came from his gun. It very easily could have came from Lester Gillis's gun. Babyface was a known psycho. He gave zero craps about anything. He'd just gun you down, not care.
Right.
He's the one known to just loose bursts of his machine gun in the air all the time. Johnny barely fired his gun unless he was trying to get away.
That's
and
true.
He was not trying to kill the cops when they shot at Red Hamilton in the car off the Spiral Bridge. He was doing what they were doing, going for the tires.
Right.
I mean, so that's still, I think I told it earlier. That's one of my favorite stories about the guy cashing his check. I mean, it just proves he wasn't, he was only after the money come in. People were sending in editorials to the newspaper.
Yeah.
You know,
well,
because John Dillinger has never hurt me or my family in any way, shape, or form, even though he robbed the bank I bank at. I hope he gets away on for Johnny.
Well, even there's what's that story about even when Johnny would go rob a bank, he'd be inside the safe and he'd be ripping up people's mortgages.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So they didn't have no records that
exactly
they owe the bank's money.
Exactly. Yeah.
So basically, Johnny's like, now your home's free. Now your home's free.
Yeah.
Now you don't owe shit on your house because there ain't no proof of it.
And there was another story that he was getting information on banks and what the banks held and everything from the company that insured the banks, who were required to be called before the police, even supposedly. I mean, it just wasn't as bad as everybody made him out to be.
No.
You watched the 1973 movie Dillenger.
That was horrible.
That had Warren Oates in there just acting like an
that
asshole,
was
waving his gun around, beating people with the stock of it.
Yeah, that was a horrible film.
That was not how Johnny was.
But believe it or not, I mean, but the one with Johnny Depp, I mean, it actually was a good movie. I mean,
it's a great movie. I drove all over Indianapolis to try to find it at a reasonable price, and I finally did because it wasn't on no streaming services, and I was like, I really want to watch that movie.
Right.
And I did. I sat down and watched it, and watched it, and watched it. And
yeah.
That's the thing about the car earlier is you can go to Rockford and see the car. It's a green Studebaker, 1932, I think, Studebaker. Johnny drove that car.
Studebaker was also made in Indiana.
Yeah, it originated here.
Originated in Indiana, correct.
Now, that car, John Dillinger himself drove when he robbed the bank in Greencastle, Indiana. That car currently is sitting in a museum in Rockford.
Uh-huh.
And when they made Public Enemies, the car that Johnny Depp is driving when he broke out of Crown Point, he's singing the Get Along Little Doggy song, is the exact car from
exact same car.
Museum. So if you go to that museum and check this car out, it was driven by both Johnnies, Dillinger and Depp.
Yeah.
And there's another museum, I don't remember where it's at, but it has one of his Essex Terraplanes in it.
Oh, okay.
Now, something else that museum, I can't remember the dang name of it, but you can find it on YouTube, and there's a guy who'll do a tour of it. I sent you a link to it one time. The Bonnie and Clyde death car is in there, but not the death car Bonnie and Clyde themselves were killed in. That's in
Vegas, ain't it?
No, it's in Primm, Nevada.
It's Nevada.
Whiskey Pete's. They bought it in 1973.
Okay.
They've had it that long. The death car that's in this museum was the one with the Warren Beatty Faye Dunaway movie from 1967.
Oh, okay.
That was the movie car, not the actual car.
The movie car, okay.
You could go see that there. Another actual honest-to-God car they have there is the porthole bulletproof Cadillac limousine that Al Capone used to roll in.
Oh.
That's up there. They also have some modern-day serial killer stuff. They have some artwork by Ted Bundy, Jeffrey Dahmer's name tag, things like that. So you can go see some other really cool true crime stuff there. There was a traveling exhibit, so I don't know where the Terraplane is now, but where the Terraplane was there's a gangster museum and a true crime museum in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee by Gatlinburg.
That's true.
They have Ted Bundy's VW Beetle there. And they had a huge Dillenger exhibit. They had one of the death masks there. They had one of his Essex Terraplanes there, which was one of the preferred cars.
Okay.
Supposedly both Clyde Barrow and John Dillinger wrote a letter to Henry Ford, praising the automobiles.
I did not know that.
Now, Johnny's was written and sent from Detroit, and it was a ploy. It was yes, to genuinely praise Ford. Like, I can make anybody take my dust when I'm in a Ford. There's nothing better than a Ford in the getaway. That type of thing.
That's kind of cool, really, if you think about it.
Right. It keep you
Bye.
damn good and well.
Thank
That
you, sir,
letter's
for
going to
making an
be.
automobile that helped me get away from all these robberies.
He knew damn good and well that letter was going to be like, oh, this came from Johnny. Let's see where it's from. Get blown up in the newspapers, and everybody's going to flock to Detroit to look for him. So
Right, correct.
I think that was a ploy, red herring, to get people to believe he's there when he's actually elsewhere.
Right.
I don't remember exactly when that took place, but that took place at some point during his exploits.
Wow.
And he's just done and gotten away with so much. And Red Hamilton is his last running buddy because Van Meter got killed shortly after Dillinger, but he was in that second incarnation too.
Yeah.
Hamilton, Van Meter, Babyface Nelson.
Right.
And then they had a wheelman. Babyface was the torpedo, which is the machine gunner. And yeah, not where I was going with all that. But he had a couple of different gangs. Oh, that's right. And the reason why he had to put that gang together, because his original two running buddies that ran with him and Van Meter were Makeley and Pierpont, and they got sentenced to death in Ohio for killing that sheriff when they broke him out of jail over there.
That's true.
Yeah, and that Pierpont's death hit him hard, and Red Hamilton's death,
yes,
really hit him hard. He actually remarked to Pierpont or Van Meter, he's like, I think I'm starting to run out of luck.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I don't think he did. I think he got away with everything.
I do too, wholeheartedly.
Here's another thing we have yet to touch on this whole time we've been rambling about Johnny's. Whatever happened to all that money?
Nobody knows.
Supposedly, when they gunned down old boy in Chicago at the Biograph Theater, Johnny had $7.40 in his pocket and a Colt 32 semi-automatic pistol.
Huh.
Yeah, $7, some loose change, a gun, the keys to Anastasia's apartment, and that's it. There was speculation he had a shitload of money in his money belt, though, and it just.
Huh.
And what happened to the rest of it?
Right.
Who knows? It's some other really other stuff he did, man. When they needed bulletproof vests and guns and ammunition,
right,
they would go rob a bank, and then they would rob police stations. They hit Logansport.
That's true. I did know that.
Yeah, and you can actually go to Logansport if you're ever here, and you can go. They have his old Thompson submachine gun that he stole from there. They got it back. It's in a glass case there.
Right.
Check that out. That's pretty cool. I got to hold a Tommy gun once in my life, and oh my gosh, it was cool. But to lay hold of that particular one,
oh yeah,
how cool would that be mounted on the wall?
No kidding. I agree 100%.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, let's go ahead and wrap it up, and we're definitely going to keep this going though, because this ain't done.
There's so much more to it. There's more to come. I know there's more to come because Mike, Travis, and Joe are going to be digging into it too.
Trust me, this ain't over.
No.
We're going to keep this going, and so just stay tuned. Stay tuned, and I will keep everybody informed. And that's all I got to say.
Yeah, I appreciate you letting me come on and talk about it.
All right. Thanks for coming on, brother.
Absolutely. Anytime.
All right. Well, all the links will be down below. Feel free to check it out. Also, check out my Patreon as well, where you can become a free member. And all my landscape photography is for sale on there. And all the other videos will be on there as well.
A lot of really cool stuff.
Feel free to check out my Patreon. Again, become a member.
Like and subscribe. Help the evil YouTube algorithm.
That's right.
Check out Paranormal Vantage Point.
Paranormal Vantage Point with Bud and Brooke. All the links will be down below. Thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate every one of you, and we will see you soon.